Hey guys, welcome to Whale Bimbo. This is Riskubus, and today we're going to update you guys and tell you about some new operators coming to Siege. We're going to start off today by telling you about the US operators coming out this spring. We have some images that we took from a promo video that shows us what looks like to be a US Delta Force operator. If we stop the video at just the right time, we can find what looks like a weapon-mounted shield. Now, other than the recruit, this would mean that we'd be getting a fourth operator that has a dedicated shield. And by looking at the weapon he's using in the video, it looks a lot like an M416. Now, we already have an M416 in the game used by Jaeger, but that's an M416 compact, not a full-size rifle. Some other very likely weapon options for this character would be the Armalite AR-18 used by the Delta Force and an M4 or an M4A1. Like Buck, this operator has an attachment as his ability, so his second weapon would have to be able to support a shield. Now, a very likely contender for this weapon would probably be a Scar H or a Scar L. Buck had an automatic and a semi-automatic rifle when he was released, so it's likely if the M416 is given to this character, that would be his automatic weapon, and if they gave him a Scar H, he would also have a semi-automatic option. A common trend for most assault operators is having a rifle and a shotgun. However unlikely it might be, this operator could have a shield-mounted shotgun, which means he would be great for rushing enemies. Now there's also another image of the US operators alongside the Canadian operators. We can see another female operator next to Frost, so this is going to be the US defensive operator. Now the general consensus among the Siege community is that this operator will have wall-mounted cameras that the defensive team would be able to place anywhere they wanted. And as far as the spring US operators, that's about all we can manage to dig up right now. Now we'll go on to the operators coming out this summer, the Brazilian. Now the two operators are very likely to have very similar weapons, probably all soccer balls. And the map we'd be getting with that would probably be a soccer stadium with a full crowd that we'd have to defend from the terrorists. I'm sure it's going to be very interesting playing Double Bomb in a stadium full of people, and instead of playing Defend the Hostage, defend the hostages. On a serious note, after doing some research, we found a group that's very likely to be the summer's operators from Brazil. The Brazilian group known as the National Public Security Force, or the NPSF, is essentially the Brazilian equivalent of the FBI SWAT. However, they do more than that as well, as they also serve as the National Guard for Brazil. As Ubisoft hasn't released any information on the Brazilian operators, the only two things I can almost say for a definite is that the sidearm used by both operators will be some kind of Glock, either a Glock 17 or a Glock 18. And that the operator's uniform will be a white, grayish digital pattern very similar to what Buck and Frost have. Since that's all we can gather on the Brazilian operators, we'll move on to the Japanese operators coming towards the end of the year. Now, this image was released by Ubisoft Japan a few months ago, and if you look at the image, you can see a man standing in the rain, and he has some kind of Ronin mask on his face. And if you look at the operator's gun, at first glance it looks like he has some kind of ACOG or red dot, but on closer examination, there seems to be a box on the top of the gun implying that it might be a thermal vision scope. If this is a thermal scope on top of this operator's gun, that would mean he'd have the ability of a thermal scope similar to how Glaz has the ability of a long-range scope. If this operator did in fact have a thermal scope on his gun, that would mean he could look inside very dimly lit areas, and also could throw smoke to obscure his enemy's vision while shooting through it. In the image, it doesn't look like the character is wearing any heavy padding. His armor also looks very nimble and flexible, so it's extremely likely that we're going to have another medium to lightweight character. The background of this image shows rain, and since the Canadian operators had the yacht map, which was an ice theme, that would very likely mean that all the maps are going to have some kind of weather theme, and if the Japanese map is located in Tokyo, it would be really cool if we had a high-rise map in the rain. It would be really refreshing to have a new map that had 4 or 5 stories that were usable by the players, and it would be also very interesting to have the attackers forced to rappel down or enter in through the roof. Well, that's all we have about the DLC operators we know so far. If you liked the video, hey, hit that red subscribe button. If you didn't, well, click it anyways. Have a great day, and thanks for tuning in to Whale Bimbo.